All right, guys, welcome back for another aliens chat. I've been very keen for this, man. Very, very keen. We've got Nathan and Jack in the house once again.
What's up?
Our resident alien fucking experts, man, I have to say. You guys are experts in my fucking eyes. 100%. 100%. Also got this little gift for yous. I don't know if you can see it from there, but it's UFOs, unusually flavored objects. So here you go, mate.
That's elite. Yeah. The silver
burger flavored snacks, UFOs, unusually flavored objects. I love that. That's funny as.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Just don't look at the nutritional information.
No,
please,
no.
bro. Don't read the back of it. It's made from Goldman Fielder, so
it's also made from the same material they make the UFOs.
oh, definitely.
That's silver crushable shit.
It just comes back.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight away.
Alien bodies
Light
as
as
well.
air.
Alien
Strong
bodies
as fuck.
as well. They just kind of scooped a little bit, crushed it in there, put it in the bag, gave it to you.
It's fucking made out of plutonium.
What are you saying? They crushed and put in a little baggie?
A little alien.
Are you sure it's burger chips or
It's alien bodies?
you take that to a doof, man? Like...
Yeah, well, no, it's like, you know, this is what they were looking for at Bob Lazar's house. But
We've got it in the studio here today. That's right. We've got
did
it.
he bury the 115 in his backyard or some shit?
it's in the bag now.
It's in the bag. It's in the bag.
Yeah, it's in the bag.
It's my
Pakistan's
second
in the
favorite thing
bag.
I find in a bag, that's for sure.
Yeah, unusually flavored objects, eh? Yeah. Well, welcome back.
I'm
guys.
usually fucked up. That's what I. usually fucked up, I should say.
Oh, that's gold.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to talk about. A lot has happened in the last couple of months, and even in the last couple of days, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you guys are here. You've brought in some stuff,
Some reading material.
Yeah, some reading material. We've got to use the screen so we can bring everything up on the screen.
Yep.
And let's get into it. What I would like to talk about in this is definitely the underwater aliens hypothesis, because you and I actually talked about this last year, Nathan, on the pod.
We did touch on it, yeah.
Yeah, we did touch on it, and everyone's talking about it now, and we actually talked about it before everyone else did. So we've got that. Then we've got the new information that's come out from, what's that guy called?
Jake Barber.
Jake Barber. Yeah, that's big. And then also, what's the other guy's name that we were just watching him before?
Ross Coulthard?
No, not Ross Coulthard. He was on PBD. What was his name?
Oh, Stephen Greer.
Stephen Greer. Yeah, he said some crazy stuff. He said some really interesting things.
Fired some huge shots at some big players.
Yeah, the Elizondo guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
which I'm so torn at the moment. So a little bit about me, like obviously I've been on the pod a couple of times.
Yep.
I've had the pleasure of speaking with you at length about some really interesting cases about this subject. My little worldview on what I think of the UFO phenomenon and what it is. And Jack, we've had the pleasure of doing a couple pods together so far. And yeah, last time we sat here, I was just such a passenger on the train that was Jack's
the explanation of the hierarchy,
the pyramid. Yeah, that was
incredible. I love that, man.
Yeah.
And that still is that all the views on that just keep going up every day.
You know what I got? I got heat from some friends for posting it. People that I'm really close with were like, "You're a racist. That's really anti-Semitic." And I was like, "What part?" And they zoomed in on like the very top of the pyramid. There's Hebrew writing, and I was like, "You're dumb as fuck. That is that. This could be the definition of the opposite of a racial slur is
Legit.
what that meant." And I literally, because I remember you had explained it, and obviously the episode hadn't dropped yet. I just had the screenshot, or maybe it had dropped, but I hadn't remembered off the top of my head what it meant. So I had to look it up, and I was like, I am what I am.
It's like, I am that I am.
I am that I am. And I'm like, it is
How's
like
that anti-Semitic, bro?
It's insane.
What world is that anti-Semitic?
See, my guess is that he looked at the chart and saw it. Oh, this is a negative chart showing the world hierarchy, Illuminati at the top.
Yeah.
So he saw it as that rather than actually looking at the actual details of what was being presented there.
Yeah, and it's so much bigger than
much bigger.
Yeah, like racism is like the last thing that it could be about, and I thought that was really interesting. So, as much as that episode was enlightening to me, I think that what's really important to remember is that I really hope people can listen to these topics and just not read the headlines or the sub headline. They actually like dive into the article and they dive into what we have to say and how we perceive this, and that obviously we've done our due diligence for so many years being so engrossed into this topic that we are a good source of information, because we are, at least, yes, we're regurgitating information. We're not like the people that are doing the digging. We're digging up what people have already dug up, and we're really good at articulating what we've researched. And what we believe, like what is our bullshit radar going off on and what isn't. And that's what I think that I hope that your listeners would gain from listening to your guests and us in particular. What we have to say is that, you know, there's a level of trust that we aren't spouting rhetoric negatively, and we would, you know, we're open-minded people to the point where the last thing we would be doing is something
you guys
racist or
you guys aren't grifting. You guys aren't, you know, trying to sell anything. You're not trying to be anti-Semitic. I think if the person spent just a little bit more time analyzing that pyramid, they'll realize that there's nothing anti-Semitic about that at all. They just saw some Hebrew writing and then thought, oh, top of the pyramid, it's got a bit of Hebrew. They're saying that the Jews run the world. That's actually not what that pyramid is saying.
Well, tell you what, it's not there to please people either, because they can look at that chart and see that it's very anti-corporate, for example. It's very much this kind of mentality that like the structures that be pretty much devised against the public. And so even if you even mention that among regular, you know, Joe with his picket fence, you know, normal mainstream lifestyle normies, then he's going to take offense to it.
I think I have ADD, by the way. Probably. Every time I get on this pod, I start talking about one thing and I'm gone immediately. Like you said, introduce yourself. And I was like, I love Jews. Like immediately. I was like, my name's Nathan and I'm not racist.
Well, the bottom line is we love everyone, but we're going to question all structures of
everything.
There's nothing wrong with that.
That is I think I've said this before on the pod. I'm like, stop being a fucking, you know, a horse with blinders on. Like question things. Like that is the biggest power that we have as humanity, is that we're so curious. It's why we have invented everything.
Absolutely.
And why we'll continue to invent. It's like if we didn't critically think and we didn't question science and things that are given to us, and that's, you know, I mean, fuck, I don't even want to get down this rabbit hole, but like the education system and, you know, how we're all so ready to die on the hill of what the education system has told us. But then again, you're just regurgitating what you think is the benchmark of what is right and what is wrong. And if that is all you can do, you can just believe one source of information, then you're a fucking moron. And it should be the people like us and the people like your listeners, I hope, and people like, you know, my friends. Like I really hope that they're able to, you know, critically think and question everything, like everything.
100%.
So just to answer your question on introductions, what I bring to the table in these conversations is I'm just photographic memory of cases. Like
you're the number one source of alien information that, to me. So that's why I love having you on, because you absolutely, like, you just jump in the deep end and absorb as much as you can, like a fucking sponge, like a Viva towel, right? And like right now, there is so much information out there. So many people are confused. You've even told me that you're confused. And when you told me that you're confused, I'm like, fuck, shit must be going on.
Yeah.
Shit must be getting real fucking.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is exactly what it is. Like I am the to a lot of my friends, I'm the sort of the alien guy. I'm the go-to source of information.
100%.
But it gets to the point where even I'm sort of so, you know, overwhelmed by the amount of information out there.
And
that's the thing.
Disinformation and misinformation.
Well, that's exactly where it comes down to.
What is it? Like what's right? So much information. How do you sift through it? How do you rake through it?
This is what I've just in the car ride over, I was just thinking about, like, you know, what should I be focusing my energy on? And a lot of people have been messaging me like, hey man, you're not publicly posting like you used to. Like, why has that sort of disappeared? Why has that fallen off? And I'm like, honestly, because I'm finding it really difficult to disseminate what is right and what's wrong and what's bullshit and what's not. And I'd rather put out something that I know that I can really chew into and that I want people to chew into than put out everything and go, and then find out that I've got egg on my face in 2 months when it's like, haha, that was nonsense. And I'd much prefer to say nothing until there's something to say, even though there's a lot, than say everything and then people can't trust that I'm giving them the right information. So I've taken a massive hiatus on choosing what to post, because to your point of being confused, I am really freaking confused. In short, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot to sift through. And what I found, like I said in the car ride over, that I'm really good at doing is thinking about the cases that have been vetted, that have got really incredible pieces of information to put together. What we'll be doing later in this pod is I've actually built a little slideshow for a case that I really want to talk about that has been vetted. It's very interesting from multiple angles. The fact that it's, you know, we're talking thousands of people's witnessed the UFO. There was a giant cover-up involved and a conspiracy to shut down the main witnesses for it. Like there's a lot of angles to bite into. And it's those stories that I think what the strength of this topic is to focus on, not the newer stuff. The newer stuff, until we have, years away from it and where, we can look back on it and there's not a lot of people trying to fight for the throne on who is the beacon of information about it. Let's just say the Jake Barber stuff.
Yeah.
That is too new to really know if it's right or wrong yet. We're too close to the source.
We could talk about it though.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
But the Pentyrch UFO incident that I'm about to bring up, that happened in 2016. Still super recent.
Exciting.
Super recent, which makes it, and that's another thing. It's like, when I talk about something from the 70s, it's just we're so disattached to the 70s. They're like, whatever.
But this black and white back then, bro. It doesn't matter.
Commander Fravor was 2014. That was a big one.
And 04.
Yeah.
So, no, that wasn't 2014. It was 04.
04.
Yeah. Ryan Graves' is one.
Ryan Graves
2014.
2014. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So basically, that's what I want to focus on, like cases that have been substantiated, that have been vetted, enough times passed, and that's what I bring to the table is just, okay, I'm going to give you real information that I have vetted myself and that people that I trust have vetted, and that will be sort of pushing the needle on what will make you question reality. What is a case that people are going to go, oh shit, that is something I'm intrigued about this topic because, us as a source, we're informative enough for you to go, okay, I never cared about aliens or UFOs or sightings, but that story is now going to make me want to dive into it.
But also, this is a story that I haven't even heard of before. So that's also another interesting one. It's from 2016. And maybe it hasn't had as much coverage as the other stuff.
It hasn't.
So,
it hasn't.
It's actually, we're bringing something to the table that,
I know no one knows about this case, even though it is unbelievable. When I go through it, it'll fucking put your jaw on the ground. It's amazing. Wow. It's my favorite case.
Let's go through it.
I'll give everyone an intro of the Pentyrch. I really wish I knew Welsh because this happened in Wales. So it's the most intriguing UFO case you've never heard of. That is essentially the subline of this case.
Why isn't this on full screen? I think that's the best we're going to get it.
All right. It'll do.
Is that all right?
That's fine.
Is that all right?
I'll control from here. Alrighty. So the Pentyrch UFO incident. This is my favorite case of all time. I can't stress enough just how intriguing this is from start to finish. Notably because it is recent, and I think that there's some level of, I don't know, for me in particular, like when I hear about cases from the 70s, I'm just like, cool, whatever. You also had the wireless radio. That was your fucking technology then.
Ham radio.
Yeah, you're still using fucking Morse code, so I don't care. But as soon as you introduce a case that, it was in the age of the iPhone, I think that there's just something a little bit more tangible about it, personally. So this is Wales, Pentyrch, Wales. It's a small town. It's about 20 k's ish from the Pentyrch Centre. And it's a sort of like a little suburb, so to speak, outside of Pentyrch that this case happened.
Pentyrch.
Yeah. Now, there's a couple of elements here that I want to point out. So we've got military presence. We've got sort of an open field, countryside.
Rolling hills.
We have green orbs, and very specifically, this is not a flying saucer. This is not an egg-shaped craft.
Monolith.
This is a monolith.
Yeah, dude.
The
pyramid
is
monolith.
Gargantuan.
It's a mothership.
Yeah, like we're talking mothership size. Like this thing was fucking enormous. And that is the biggest thing that made me so intrigued about this is that the size of it was unbelievable.
That's crazy.
So let's go into I'm going to read, everyone can read along, but I'm essentially going to read out, these are my notes. So
go for it, man. Go for it.
Yeah. So first chapter is the unusual military activity in the lead up. In the days preceding the event, residents of Pentyrch noticed an unusual military presence. A twin-prop plane was observed flying low over the village, a common sight given the proximity of the Ministry of Defense, the MOD, St. Athan Air Force Base. St. Athan, Air Force Base, just 15 kilometers away from Pentyrch. However, when a second plane arrived to replace the first and began constant aerial sweeps over and around the town, it raised concerns. The surveillance continued for several days and nights, prompting local residents to take notice. The intensity of the observation led some to believe that something significant was being monitored. We're going to put a pin in this page for later, but what's really interesting about this case is that we have days of activity before this happened, which makes you wonder, did they know something was going to happen?
Oof, chills.
Eyewitness account, Clarke and Dave.
Kaz.
Now, this is the observations. On the night of February 25th, so this is the night before the incident, Clarke and her neighbor Dave decided to camp outside in the fields behind Kaz's property to observe the aircraft. This is how odd it was. There's a military presence. It's not uncommon, but when planes, plural, are flying in formation and in holding patterns around the town 24/7, it's going to raise some curiosity.
Oh, of course.
Around 2 a.m., a new, faster, sleeker aircraft appeared in the sky. As it banked left, the two noticed a distinct mushroom-shaped dome on its back, identifying it as an E3 Sentry AWACS, Airborne Early Warning and Control System. And as you can see in the image, you've probably seen those kind of planes before.
With a big frequency antenna on the top.
Yeah, it's a radar dish.
Yeah.
Strange.
The aircraft circled above them 7 times, maintaining a clear surveillance position. The appearance of the UFO.
Hectic.
While watching the aircraft, Kaz noticed something extraordinary at the end of her field. 3 bright red lights appeared in a triangular formation. 6 smaller red lights emerged, connecting the 3 leading lights, forming a giant triangular shape. The object moved silently across the tree line before stopping, again within the bounds of her property.
Yep.
A bright green light shot out the top like a cannon and hovered, rocking gently within the tree line.
Mm.
While this occurred, the E3 Sentry continued its holding pattern, circling the area. The way she described it was, she was like, there was a light here, a light here, and a light here. This is obviously a 4-sided, it's almost like a diamond, but from her perspective, it was just a triangle.
Yeah.
At the time, she didn't quite see that she just thought it was a triangle. The shapes are important here. She didn't actually know it was even a craft. AVG can actually eat a dick. Why is that?
I just want to
Constantly
kill him
all night. This has been popping.
Dude.
Just open up AVG and turn off notifications.
Yep.
No, it doesn't matter. I don't want to fuck this story up. So anyway, the object's transformation and movements. Oh, does that image look insane? Because the story is getting insane.
That's hectic.
Whoa. Okay.
A lot of energy coming out of that, man. What's going on? Looks angry.
Yeah. Well, not so much. And I'll explain. The triangular craft began to rotate clockwise while moving slowly to the right. Kaz felt an intense, inexplicable focus on the movement of the bottom of the craft aligned with the ground. So the way she described it, she said, and there's actually an incredible video about this. So a lot of the information I got this story from was from the Paranormal Scholar. That's the name of the channel on YouTube. She is brilliant. She does all kinds of videos. She goes to locations and she does her own research. She's actually amazing. And she went and interviewed Kaz. So a lot of the footage, the clips, the information I'm regurgitating, and I would never take credit for this story, of course. But she definitely did an incredible job. And when she was explaining this in the interview, you can see how Kaz describes this. She said, I was looking at the bottom of the craft because for whatever reason, she's like, to this day, don't ask me why. I just know that I was fascinated with it sort of landing because it looked like it was landing. As it was moving across the tree line, it was getting closer to the ground, but I realized it wasn't getting closer to the ground. The ground was just getting closer to the craft because it was sort of sweeping up into a ridge. And she's like, for whatever reason, I was fascinated with the bottom of the craft. And that's why she noticed something next. Just before contact, i.e. with the ground, red lightning began shooting from the bottom of the craft. Kaz described it as thick, fire-like lightning, vastly different from traditional lightning bolts. She said it was like fingers. She was like, it was thick, and it just kept striking the ground.
Like plasma.
Like plasma.
Whoa.
At this moment, she realized the immense size of the craft. Now, again, she was only looking at the bottom and she'd only seen it in a 2D form. Like the lights were only showing the outline. But as soon as the lightning started hitting the ground and it was still rotating clockwise, now she started seeing the shape of it.
Wow.
Even from her distance, she could not see the top while focusing on the bottom. It was so big.
Massive.
It was so big that in her peripheral vision, she could not see the top.
Mate, I would have been running away.
It
I
was
would have been legging it.
the way she describes the size of it is terrifying. Like we're talking so big that your eye has something like 100 and no, it has like 210
Rods and
degrees.
goes.
It's enormous. Like our field of vision is so big, and she in her peripheral vision could not see the top of the craft, and it was lit up the entire thing because
she
the
was just
lightning was
standing
so
there.
bright.
She didn't want to go anywhere. She didn't want to.
She was in her property,
Yeah.
camping out, looking at aeroplanes, not realizing a fucking UFO was about to even. She couldn't even think of this was happening in her lifetime, let alone in her backyard.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Nath, she didn't know there was a top that's that large. It's like the sense of disorientation she must feel when it's like you're expecting to see sky, but you just keep walking and it's just more and more metal.
Mothership
And you're
of
like,
metal. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine the feeling of that?
Yeah. So this is where it gets cool.
So freaky. You'd be just stunned.
Yeah.
You'd just be in just flight or fight response. Adrenaline would just be pumping. Your body would be just frozen.
Just quickly, Nath, did she describe any sound at this point?
No, not a single sound uttered from it. Again, and this is a common feedback from experiences is that it is silent. Not a single engine sound. You know, it's so common for combustible engines and the sound of rotaries and things like that we are so used to. And all of a sudden, these craft are just silent. So anyway, meanwhile, Dave, her neighbor, noticed around 20 bright green orbs being ejected from the top of the craft into the night sky. So this is how she described it. She's like, Dave saw something I didn't because he wasn't looking where I was looking, and he was looking at the top, or at least trying to look for the top. And that's when he noticed all the orbs come out, and she still couldn't take her eyes off. I mean, we are humans looking at fire at a campsite, and we're just in a trance. Can you imagine seeing a craft smashing lightning into the ground? You would be locked in. That'd be it.
Yeah, man.
The fact that Dave even saw anything else is a miracle.
Yeah. Far out.
So next chapter, the military response and the disappearance of the craft. 2 additional twin prop planes joined the E3 Sentry. Shortly after, a pair of Hercules C-130s arrived, forming a tight aerial formation around the object.
They're the big boys.
Big boys. Yeah. Two of them, enormous, and considering how big they are, I think they're one of the biggest aircraft in the world. They don't have a lot of maneuverability. No. So why did they have Hercules coming in? What was it that they were transporting, and why were they in formation around the E-30 or the E3, the Sentry plane, and the other propeller planes that were there to sort of
So those
scope it out?
aircrafts are US military aircrafts.
Well, it's not a US military, because remember there was an airfield, British airfield, the MOD, around the corner.
Those Hercules C-130s are owned by the British then.
Imagine so.
And like,
they were, imagine so.
They weren't clearly like unmarked. Like people say that at the site of like a lot of UFO incidents, black helicopters show up.
Yeah.
They do they appear to look like they're part of any kind of military outfit, or were they kind of more or less just like black?
Oh no, they were clearly from the base, and again, it's 2 a.m, so it's hard for Kaz to describe. Oh yeah, I saw British markings or US markings on it. But anyway, let me continue.
Makes sense if it's from if there's a base close by, that it's most likely from there.
Yeah. So 1 green orb darted in front of the aircraft, behaving the way Kaz described it. She was like, it was excited. It was almost like, hey, look at me, and behaving almost playfully in a distracting manner. It led the other planes away from the craft. While she was observing this, in a moment of confusion, the massive pyramid-shaped craft vanished, either moving instantaneously or becoming invisible, but it just fucking disappeared.
What the hell?
Now think about the size of that. You know, how do you miss something moving? You know, it's right in front of you. You know, what do we know technologically that can do something like that? What do we know now, the size of something like that in the air?
That can dematerialize like that.
Forget dematerializing, forget moving. What do I don't even think we have an aircraft carrier size anything that can be in the air, let alone a giant pyramid.
And it's noiseless.
Yeah.
It's using some form of the magnetic, the magnetic.
Also, because I'm a massive pyramid idiot, was it a real, like actual pyramid? Like
Pyramid shape. It wasn't like made of
Pyramidians.
freaking like,
no, but like that kind of shape exactly. Was it pyramid-like, or was it actually a pyramid?
it was a pyramid because remember, she only saw it was a very sharp angled triangle in a 2D form. The lightning struck as it was rotating, and she saw that it was in its 3D form.
Okay.
It was a pyramid.
The plot thickens.
Yeah. Alrighty, I'll continue. So, chapter 6, close encounter with orbs and Apache helicopter response. While standing at the fence line, 2 barrel-sized orbs flew directly towards Kaz and Dave. The orbs changed color from red to green, hovered directly above them, scanned Kaz, and zipped away. Hold on.
AVG strikes again.
Eat a dick. I hate this.
Should we just pause it and then fix up?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't want to bump around the story too much. Don't want to lose momentum. So, moments later, Apache helicopters arrived, flying in formation, low, and heading in the direction of the orb. So now you can imagine they need some speed and they need some maneuverability. And if you know anything about Apache helicopters, you know they're armed to the teeth. So if they're sending the Apaches, it makes you wonder what might happen next. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, Apaches are like super armed helicopters that can just
The most
launch
armed.
death onto anyone.
Like truly, they
want to
are
be right,
death in the
just-
skies.
Yeah, literally. And
Yeah.
the hieroglyphics on some of the Egyptian.
The tomb, the temple of Seti I.
Yeah, it's got Apaches in it.
Winston's pretty crazy. We can show that a bit later.
Yeah, done.
So I want to divulge into this a little bit. Divulge.
Yep, go for it.
The way she described the orb was the closest she got to it. It's right above her. And in the video where she's having an interview, she's standing in the very spot she was in when she was viewing it. And in the next slide, I show you the field that she stands in. And you can see what Kaz looks like, and you can see the field, and you can kind of start to put together like what's the real world sort of weight of this encounter. And the camera pans up, and she's like, see that branch? And it's just a branch, like a regular heighted branch on a tree. And she's like, it was just above it. So, I mean, we're talking, a normal ceiling's height above her. And she said, I was close enough to, the way I could describe it was the orb was static, like noise on a television, like no signal on it. Sort of like, you see the girl from The Ring, it's like the static. She's like, but it wasn't quite just static. It was like almost folding in on itself. It was like moving, constantly moving. It was like a really interesting skin on it and energy that was flowing off it. And obviously what was perplexing was that it scanned her. And then the way she described it, she was like, I just felt, blissful. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel, frightened by it. I wasn't stuck in fear. I was elated. I was light. I felt happy. I had all these really good sensory feelings essentially take over her body. And she was like, it was profound in the way she felt during it and afterwards of that experience, that close-up experience.
And that's been similar to a few other experiences.
Constantly. It is the constant across every single one of these stories is, for the most part, minus some things like the Rendlesham Forest incident where they got close to a craft, saw symbols, hieroglyphics on the craft, touched it, and now they are currently battling cancer. Some of them are dead. Like some of them have gotten some serious problems that stemmed off it. But I don't want to deviate just yet because
this will lead into the Barber stuff as well.
That's right.
The contractor's tasked with moving mysterious material from these crash sites and some of the bad things that have happened.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. We'll continue.
Yeah. It's all right. I just got it. I'm good. All right. Explosion and seismic disturbance. As Kat and Dave returned home, remember, green orb's gone, pyramids disappeared, fun's over, all right? So they decide, we're going to go home. A massive explosion shook the town. Massive explosion. She was like, it was so big that it shook the ground beneath us. It shook my house to its foundations. It was enormous. Scared out of her mind. This was moments after she started to leave back to her house. This is still pitch black of night, very early in the morning.
Massive explosion.
Residents across Pentyrch reported hearing the blast, with some violently woken by the force. Car alarms were triggered. And here, as you can see, seismological data recorded an anomaly at 4 a.m., confirming a significant event happened. And as you can see, it's circled. You can see there's some wave signals, and they're all sort of constantly down here.
Around
Constant.
7 to
There's
11
nothing.
mark.
So you got to remember, like these
4 a.m. in the morning. There's nothing going on.
nothing.
Explosion.
Boom.
Wow.
Now, consider this. This seismological data from Monmouth is, I think she said 40 kilometers away. It's so far away, and it still recorded it. It was such a big explosion. Like 40 kilometers away, an explosion that wasn't an earthquake. Think about how fucking loud that would be, or big that would be.
Makes me think of the Tunguska explosion.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably actually a bit.
And I wonder what's
to be fair, that was
insane.
insane.
Do you reckon that was the military doing something, or maybe the
This?
craft doing something?
Oh, I'll get there.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want you. Strap in, my guy. We're not done yet.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So the Royal Glamorgan hospital sustained damage with shattered glass and thick smoke, as described, entering the building. So,
Wow.
so there was some and why I added that point in is because this isn't just like Joe Blow in his house. This is a public service name.
The hospital, bro.
The hospital that has reported the glass being blown out in their building, and like real tangible side effects of an explosion happening in their presence.
It's hectic.
Yeah. So chapter 8, the official military response and the FOIA request. So FOIA, for those who are uneducated on what that stands for, it's Freedom of Information Act. And what that means is that the public are allowed to essentially
Ask for information.
And for the most part, there is a lot of wiggle room where we are allowed to really access quite sensitive data. Unfortunately, that data that gets released doesn't always need to be exactly what it is. And as you can see here, the Ministry of Defense, the MOD, later responded to a Freedom of Information Act request, claiming that the activity in Pentyrch was part of a training exercise called Chameleon.
What?
However, when asked about the explosion, the MOD stated, in quotes, the following: "It would not be possible for the MOD to retrospectively confirm," so obviously this is well and truly after the events, "that the shaking report in February 2016 was caused by the simulations that took place during the military training exercise." So the MOD is basically acknowledging that there was an explosion, but they're like, yeah, well, we're not, it's not possible for us to, they're not even saying that they won't. They're just saying it's not possible.
Yeah.
We just can't. I don't know why. Someone's tying our hands back. We can't do it. We can't give you the information. The Chameleon was what from the beginning, which even in the days leading up to it, obviously there was a lot, like I said, there's a lot of military presence before it. And it was chalked up publicly as a military operation in the area. And it's not out of the ordinary. Again, with 15 Ks away from the MOD base, this isn't crazy. Obviously, what was strange was that, every now and then a military chopper or plane goes past, but this was the consistency of plane after plane doing circle after circle, day in, night out, kind of, that made it very odd. So for the fact that we know that the name was Operation Chameleon, according to the training that it was, and the ability for the MOD to acknowledge that something happened, but then state we're not giving out the information despite it being a FOIA request, is very telling. Very, very telling. So let me continue. Chapter 9. The aftermath, evidence and cover-up. The following day, Kaz visited Pentyrch Commons. It's a public space that is essentially a big block of land where all of the residents of Pentyrch walk their dogs, they go and have picnics, they essentially just go and hang out.
Yep.
Good.
This was a public space where military personnel were seen conducting a metal search. A yellow tape cordon prevented residents from accessing key areas, and what she described was that they were doing spot by spot. So they were cording off an area, sweeping it, moving to another area, cording it off, sweeping it, so on and so forth. What she found very interesting was that all the old scrap metal, she said in the commons you'd find old fridges, you'd find bikes, you'd find all kinds of metal objects. They were neatly stacked on the side of the road. All of a sudden it was cleaned up. And again, remember, you can imagine how big this operation was, that this happened at 4 a.m. There was a big explosion. And now suddenly in the day, there's already a military presence looking for specifically metal.
They're scouring the area.
They're scouring in the area, and they've already cleared every single piece of obvious metal debris that does not belong there or something for what they're looking for. Very, very interesting.
It's crazy.
Crash site discovery in Smilog Woods. This is where it gets fun.
Smilog Woods.
Yeah.
And as you can
Looks
see,
like the Blair Witch Project or something.
Yeah, it's getting scary.
Yeah.
as you can see, I've included
Real pictures.
yes, real pictures.
And-
And now I'm realizing that I might have actually got an updated version on my laptop, because I know I put photos even earlier than this that are real. But anyway, doesn't matter. I'll bring that version up after. So, Kaz and Dave followed the direction where the green orbs had fled and discovered a debris trail in the woods. So remember, they saw the green orb that distracted the aircraft the night earlier, and they saw the direction it went in. They heard the explosion. They went to sleep. They woke up, went to the commons, and now they're curious. They're like, we are going to go that way.
Okay.
When they got to the debris field, they found it. They found a clearing in this Smilog forest, and they saw 60-foot trees were snapped in half in a perfectly straight line.
What?
So what would that tell you? If you've ever seen a sci-fi movie,
Perfectly snapped tree.
UFO comes in, gets into the forest, gets into the thick of the trees, starts smashing into trees, breaking them in half, and it's in a straight line, right? That's what I'm picturing anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. Are they scorched, by the way?
Oh, we'll get there.
Smashed? Okay.
A cluster of, this is where she finds a cluster of 6 trees. They get to a certain area, stood broken, 20 foot high. They were snapped in half, 20 feet in the air, surrounded by scorched bark and an unusual chemical odor. She said it was pungent. It was so pungent. She was like, what is that?
Unusual.
What is that smell? And everything had a burn mark. And that's why I've included, this is real footage. This is in the video, but these are screenshots of the snap trees here.
Yeah, wow.
And again, that's why it's a bit blurry. This is actually doubled imagery, because when I screenshotted it, they were moving the camera around.
It's not the best photos for evidence in the video.
Well, I mean, you can see snap trees. Like, that's all you really need to see for evidence.
I
But
can always. I get my images that are blurry and the conspiracy ones. That's always the shit that I believe the most.
No, it's really just story 100%. It's just like
what is actually compelling about this is that despite it being shitty, grainy footage, it's not military shitty, grainy footage. What I love about this is that it's iPhone footage and it's on the ground, boots on the ground, civilian footage.
Yeah,
that is more believable than watching, declassified, gun camera footage that's fucking black and white with a dot in a little reticle. Like we've seen 10,000 times. I'm just like, what the fuck is that?
It's always night vision. It's always at night, guys.
Does my head in.
At least this is something that's actually happened, and we can see that
I'd love to watch that.
those branches are snapped right there, and that area has been affected.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, for the record, that snapped stump we're seeing in the bottom image, we're not looking at a twig here. We're looking at a ancient 60-foot tree.
Correct.
Like thick tree.
Thick.
Yeah.
She thick.
Yep.
It takes a lot to cut that in half like a fucking toothpick, man.
100%.
Yeah. And what I love is that it's timestamped. So you can see that just before midday, she's on this trip and she's having a look at this. And this is like the day after. This is the 27th.
Yeah.
And what I want to point out here is these are the scorch marks. So that's not scorched. Look at the bark on this. It's just fucking gone. And it's just white. Like she's white. And she saw trunks. There's actually a photo of it, or in the video. Some of the trunks were distended. So they were essentially, it looked like they were about to explode. So they were hot, like heated up from the inside to the point where they just started to just warp.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of the trees were like that, just completely bloated. Yeah.
Super out of the ordinary.
Poor trees, just chilling there, just doing its life, and then all of a sudden, my mate just got snapped in half. Melting, my bark's coming off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts, bro.
Pretty crazy. So another thing that happened that she thought was really weird was that snow started to fall on the crash site.
What?
Yeah, and there's video footage of the snow. When she touched it, she said it felt sticky like marshmallow. And she's like, what was weird about it was that when snow falls in your hand, it like the heat off your palm is enough to just be like, it's gone. She was like, it stayed in my palm. It had a sticky consistency. And then it would like, if she squished it, it would go flat. And only after playing with it for a little bit, flattening it, would it dissolve. And she was like, you could barely call it snow. It was very chemical. And what she found very odd, and this is actually not in any of the notes, this is something I'm adding as a little bit of a detail. When she saw the snow at the site and then she went back to her property later on, she noticed that the area where the lightning was striking, all of the area around was, she didn't say it was burnt. She said it was not burnt, but it was dead. Like the life had been sucked out of it.
Some kind of radiation poisoning or something.
Yeah. Which I'm about to get to.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's exciting. It's exciting. It's exciting. She said that the snow that she saw at the crash site in the forest started happening specifically over the spot where the craft was earlier, and she called it the bald patch.
No.
And it was only in these two spots that randomly in the area it was only affected by was this really strange chemical snow falling. So to my point about the radiation, Smilog Woods recorded radiation levels equivalent to 21 days of background exposure in one go.
That's hectic.
Kaz's Field recorded radiation levels equivalent to 4 days of continuous chest x-rays.
Whole thing, that'll affect her hard.
Well, I mean, if you stand there for long enough, sure, but she probably doesn't go anywhere near it. She doesn't have to anymore. She's got plenty of room. She's in a field of dreams and UFO remnants.
Yeah.
The affected trees were quietly removed. Everything that was cut in half was removed and replanted. Officials claimed it was due to what was called larch disease, despite no previous reports of this condition.
It's always something they can just make up on the spot.
But you know what they did with the trees?
What?
You know what's something really weird? They didn't even remove them.
They just
to this day, the broken trees are just left in piles.
What?
Right next to the trees that they replanted.
Have people done tests on them to see the radiation content?
Yeah, that's why we know 21 days worth of background radiation. Yeah.
It's probably a lot safer now.
Half-life.
No, this is 5 years later with a test.
5 years later.
Yeah.
Still, okay. Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy.
The half-life's like 30,000 years. I forgot.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like Chernobyl's fucked.
Yeah. No one's going there anytime soon, bro.
Alrighty, so this is chapter 11. This is the attempts to suppress the incident. Local independent journalist, and I didn't want to add the part in, but I'll say it out loud. He's part of like a MUFON equivalent, so the like UFO group.
Yeah.
He submitted a FOIA request about a reported overturned lorry road closure and subsequent details of the event. All the roads were closed to the entire area the next day for an overturned lorry. And he was like, so you're saying that we all just saw a UFO, heard an explosion, the roads are closed in the area that it allegedly we heard the explosion because a lorry turned over.
And trees snapped in half in the middle, but it's a lorry.
Very odd.
Falling through plot holes here, man.
The South Wales police refused, dismissing his request as vexatious.
Come on, bro.
So this is why I've highlighted this in red. Oddly, while claiming no records exist of the road being closed, the police somehow knew exactly what the incident he was referring to. He's being vexatious. He's essentially making up that he saw that the roads were closed, and they were like, no, there's no record here of the roads being closed. He's like, but they fucking were. I was there, dickhead. And they're just gaslighting this dude.
Gaslighting.
Big gaslighting.
Yeah. So Gary then submitted a FOIA request to the MOD about the pyramid craft, the bright orbs and the lights, and the military presence and explosions. This is where it gets fun.
Oh.
The MOD did not deny the existence of the crafts, but refused to release information citing Section 26. Now, if you know what Section 26 is, it is the right to deny a FOIA request due to sensitive data being shared publicly. So it's the out card. Every single time a FOIA request is submitted by, let's just say, John Greenwald, who is a famous independent journalist in the UFO world, and he posts all of his FOIAs on X and then all of the replies on X. Yep. Every single one of them, and he does it weekly because he submits that many.
Very
so many different things. Very transparent. The amount of Section 26s he has to he posts because all of the government's out is, well, there's sensitive information here. We can't submit it because, these are highly classified data sources. And, these gun cams, for example, for all the good UFO footage, all of a sudden, highly sensitive cameras. It's like, bro, it's on a gun. It's on satellite.
This guy's probably
flying over Russia.
This guy's
it's on a fucking gun.
Number 26, man.
It's also, if there was some, Julian Assange type thing as well, it's like, well, we can't release that because they're trying to hide a crime.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
A lot of people are saying that, these things are hidden because they don't want their adversaries to know that they've got certain technology that they've reverse engineered.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into too much right now because we've nearly finished this and I don't know what's coming up. But it's I'm keen for the next slide. And then we can break this down if you want.
Oh, we will.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. I mean, more or less, I've broken it down. So if you've got any questions, we can definitely go over it. So, further government involvement. In the days following, an unfamiliar unit set up camp behind Kaz's property, initially claiming on a public forum in the town square, like literally, poster board at the city hall.
In the backyard, man.
I'll get there.
What's going on?
Yeah, this photo is really important for one reason and one reason only. Initially, this group claimed to be a fracking research unit. 10 minutes later, when she had read the notice board and gone back to her house, one of them was in close proximity. Because remember, they're in Kaz's backyard. So she's within walking distance. Yeah. She's in walking distance, and they say they're from Vodafone. Like, we're just testing signals out here.
Off my property.
Meanwhile,
Vodafone.
If you Vodafone, get lost.
She observes all of them.
Scammers.
All of them are in military fatigues. Some of them are carrying.
Excuse me, madam.
Weapons. Yeah.
That's what I mean, bro. In camo.
Who you with, bro? Did you say you were Telstra? No, I think I heard you say Vodafone.
I'm going to give you this SIM card right now. You're going to put it in your phone.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh my God. So what she saw was armed personnel and hazmat suits. People in hazmat suits were observed using large suitcase-sized field units. There is a photo of the field unit, but it's from a distance. So she's obviously zoomed so far and you can barely make it out. Like, it's really hard. So I didn't even bother including it. But essentially she was like, they saw me watching them and they just went, and like slowly closed the case, kind of waited for it to fuck off. And then they went back and resumed their whatever duties. So,
so petty.
Yeah. So it says here that, they're likely for satellite or surveillance operational and potential listing post observations, but, that's conjecture and her version of events, what it could be. Now, these last 2 points don't have a slide, but I added them in on this one, and they don't have photos with it, even though they exist. But what's interesting is a government designated aircraft Specifically, so people they love tracking airplanes. Like everyone knows where Elon Musk flies around and Mr. Beast flies around, and everyone tracks everyone's plane because people are weird and they obsess over the strangest things.
Losers, bro.
Well, these losers tracked this one particular.
Oh, they're right then. They're right. Sorry, guys.
There's a well-known flight on a well-known aircraft, much like the Air Force One, that ships high-level government officials from London to anywhere in the UK, into Wales, into Scotland, whatever. And its designation is Kitty 74. And basically, they saw it leave on the day after from London to the MOD base 15 kilometers outside of Pentyrch.
Oh, wow.
So at some point, a high-level government official has come to the site. Coincidentally, straight away, David Cameron, who was the PM at the time, just so happened to be giving GM, the General Motors, GE, General Electrics, a speech. He was visiting the factory and he was 8 kilometers away from Pentyrch. Just coincidentally. The day after, like, there's an enormous...
Nothing sus.
Nothing sus.
Just a bit having a laugh, you know.
Yeah, we're just all hanging out, around, just in town, just
going for a pint, just going for a pint.
In Pentyrch, some bumfuck town in the middle of fucking Wales. It don't have nothing to do with London or the UK.
Probably gave him the cookie cutter explanation of what happened.
User idiots and just go back to your lives.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see here.
Yeah,
we're just from Vodafone.
Yeah.
We're just here to test the 4G. And if you're good, we'll upgrade you to 5G. But if you act smart, you're going back to 3G.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, the explosion is because you guys were, using too much electricity.
At that point, because it's such a town, a small town.
Yeah.
My uncle, shout out Uncle Fabian. He's the funniest dude I've ever met in my life. He is so old school, but kind of tinfoil, without really being like a tinfoil guy. He's just sus about every fucking person ever. And he's like, look, I'm not on 4G. I'm not on 5G. My 3G phone works fair enough. I don't need any bullshit. Because Telstra called him and said, look, your services are going to get disconnected because we don't service 3G anymore. He's like, I don't need 4G. 3G works good for me. I don't need this shit. I don't want it. And they're like, look, Fabian, you can't use a phone. He's like, oh, bloody hell. Okay, I'll get a 4G phone. Keep in mind, 5G's been out for like 5 years. And he's just getting into 4G. And he's like, too many Gs. Yeah. Don't need it.
What a legend.
I'm the real OG.
Yeah, I'm the captain now. Shout out Uncle Fabian. So what I want to point out here is what Kaz points out.
Yep.
So she's like, you can take the man out of the army, but you can't take the army out of the man. The reason why she knew they were military personnel, not the weapons, not the hazmat suits, she was like, look at the fucking tents. They were clean and tidy and in a row.
Military style.
They weren't a bunch of researchers looking for fracking opportunities or whatever the fuck. They weren't weather scientists there to test signals for Vodafone and, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
They were, look at these, and this is a real photo taken by Kaz. Like, they're in line, like the strings on them are literally
did they give us some money for camping in their backyard?
I know, right? Like, to be fair, they're probably just, squatters' rights. They're just like, nah, fuck us. It's my land.
That's so mean.
Yeah.
Poor thing. They could have at least bought her a nicer phone. Get a bit of HD cameras.
So this is Kaz. This is what she looks like. That is her face. She's got a very sort of like, I'm a Welsh countryside look to her. She's like, oh,
she's country tough.
Country tough, exactly. Yeah. She's got her hands dirty a couple times, She's not afraid of throwing down.
Yeah.
Looks like she's gonna get in a fist fight right now.
Yeah, look, she's ready to throw her hands, 100%. So, Kaz remained quiet for 18 months, but eventually went public, and she only went public because of what happened next. She was approached by fake journalists who focused more on who she spoke to rather than what she saw. Yeah. So she had people. So she said, I went to the local paper. I said my story. And then I got hit up on Facebook. She's like, I got hit up on Facebook with people that are like, oh, yeah, I'm from the mainstream media outlet, blah, blah, blah. And I really want to talk to you about the incident. And then she was like, great, I'm happy to tell my story. And then when she started to get in touch with them, they were like, who'd you tell?
Oh, what?
How did you tell them? Did you use Messenger? Did you use email?
So they're just poking and prodding to find out.
Not what happened. Like
give a shit
anybody
about-
else, they
yeah.
were like, "Who'd you tell? How'd you do it? How'd you tell them?"
That's just more army shit.
Yeah.
That's fake journalists. Yeah.
The military later visited her home, threatening her to stay silent. She was like, "I was literally physically intimidated to keep my mouth shut." And then she wasn't even done yet. She was like, where it got scary for me was that she was later threatened by a staged car accident. They didn't even say staged. They're like, "You'll die in a car accident if you don't shut the fuck up about it. And we're not going to just target you. We're going to target your family." And that's when she did the exact opposite of what someone's scared to do. She was like, "Cool, fuck yeah, I'm going even more public," like Bob Lazar did. He doubled down. He's like, "Yeah, if I'm quiet, maybe you can kill me because no one knows my story. No one's
Exactly.
But if I go super public, everyone knows me, and all of a sudden I die, looks like you fucking killed me."
Yeah.
Because she didn't leave out the part when she went public that she got threatened with her life.
Yeah.
It's
more evidence. It's good.
Yeah, it's like it's the insurance policy of a lifetime right there.
The courage is insane too.
Mm.
Yeah.
And do you reckon part of the feeling of, say, bliss that she'd felt in that moment of being in the presence of that giant craft
Gave her
made it
motivation.
kind of like opened up this kind of almost DMT-esque realm of her brain that goes, "I'm just going to seek the truth. Like, I can't shut up about this."
That's such a valid point, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. Maybe if she didn't have that experience, it would have been a different situation, a different scenario would have occurred.
But just speculation, but
Yeah.
come
Well,
on.
an orb, you know, it's happened to a lot of people. It happened to that guy. I keep forgetting his name. Just recently.
Bob Lazar,
No,
Jake Barber,
Jake Barber.
David
Jake
Crush.
Barber. Yeah. He said it was the most blissful, warm experience. He goes, it felt like it was just a pure feminine consciousness of love, motherly energy, and he'd never felt anything like that before, and it was changed his whole life.
It's a strange thing for an absolute killer special forces guy to say.
It really is.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So basically, instead of backing down, Kaz became more vocal, taking multiple polygraph tests to validate her claims, which she also posted. Chapter 14. Last chapter. A conclusion. A possible military alien conflict. The overwhelming eyewitness testimony, physical evidence, military presence, and government suppression strongly suggest the following. A massive unidentified craft entered Pentyrch airspace. The British military engaged the craft, resulting in its destruction or forced crash. The wreckage was recovered from Smilog Woods, followed by a government cover-up. Despite the MOD denial, their refusal to outright dismiss the UFO claims raised serious questions. Was Pentyrch the site of an unprecedented extraterrestrial encounter? Ladies and gentlemen, that is my favorite UFO case of all time, the Pentyrch UFO Incident.
Wow.
That is incredible.
We have eyewitness testimony. We have a crash retrieval, a government cover-up.
Threats.
We have every part, giant mothership sized, not an egg, not a fucking flying disc, a motherfucking giant mothership.
A monolith.
Which makes you wonder, how in the fuck did they move that?
Yeah.
How did they get rid of it? How? Like, with what? How many helicopters do you have on? Like, how many points can you connect it to and lift it somewhere without getting seen?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, and this it goes to show how many years they've been doing this for. Crash retrievals for. They've been doing this since the 40s. They got this shit down on lock. They know exactly what to do.
Probably longer. I can't say that I have any evidence to say that it was longer, but
I would say that it's not, because the Air Force didn't even exist until after Roswell. Because of Roswell.
Yeah, okay. Roswell was a very big notion.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that they had programs. I mean, they didn't even have fucking Air Force, so they didn't have crash retrieval programs. That's for damn sure.
Well, Roswell was potentially an incident in which, okay, so let's just address the elephant in the room. People always ask, how can a highly advanced interstellar ship come all this way only to crash? Like suddenly, like the drunk behind the wheel is just crashed into the middle of the desert, like in an open space. Yeah. Like people ask, therefore, big debunkers always say this, right? So there is the whole background in what we're seeing in a lot of crash retrieval efforts is the result of forced crashings. Caused by certain military wings that have the ability to bring them down through various means.
One of them being like psionics, yeah?
Psionics. Psionics is one, but also as Stephen Greer says, Dr. Stephen Greer says that they have, at this point, EMPs. This is science that we're quite aware of, that you can actually jam frequencies through electromagnetic pulses, which they use to bring the craft down.
And a lot of the internal architecture of UFOs, when dissected and information does get filtered down to us, is all electric. Like these craft, yes, gravitation, element 115 from getting interstellar locations, but literally to run, it's actually all electricity.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it makes sense that EMPs would affect it.
And also, it's not infinite energy too. It's like it is still using vast amounts of energy, even though it's not using combustion. So in a lot of cases, there's been reports that they're there for the sake of needing repairs. In a lot of cases, there are a lot of credible cases in which people have actually met certain beings which say, we are here for certain materials. Nathan, you probably know some better examples to kind of expand on that. But it is interesting that though they might be really advanced, there's still a degree to which, these aren't gods. They actually have very similar motivations to us.
Do you guys know who Jason Sands is?
Yeah.
Jason says, no, I don't.
Yeah, so there's a famous filmmaker. The fuck's his name now? Why am I blanking?
Sands? No.
No. He did The Phenomenon.
He's on Rogan recently.
Oh, The Phenomenon.
And why he was on Rogan recently was to promote his new one called The Program. And he had Jason Sands feature in the movie The Program. And what was really strange, I actually saw a clip of him on, like, it was a younger millennial podcast. It wasn't like Rogan or PBD or even Sean Ryan. It was on a younger guy's clip. Like, think like Logan Paul kind of age. Our age.
Probably Danny Jones, I mentioned.
No, it wasn't. Oh, I mean, maybe. Yeah. And Jason Sands was a guest on this with the guy, right? So basically, while I'm talking, can you look up the director of The Phenomenon and The Program? Just Google it, it'll come up. Basically, he was talking about an incident, and in the middle of the podcast, despite him...
James Fox, that's the one, yeah.
Thank you, James
Fox.
Well, go check that one out.
Yeah. Basically, in the middle of the podcast, he stops... It'd actually might worth you getting the clip up. Go to YouTube and go to YouTube Shorts.
It's got some good ratings.
On The Phenomenon.
It's worth watching. Go check it out. Yeah.
Oh, no, that is... If you're going to watch any UFO documentary, if you know nothing about this topic, or if you know everything about this topic, it is by a long country mile the most thorough, cohesive, well put together. Like, what is the phenomenon and why should you care about it? Like, you might
enjoyed it.
Watch the trailer. Put the trailer on. Like, let people watch the trailer. It's fucking insane. It's amazing. And there is, just before you press play, just pause it for a sec. In the film, so Australia, not just Australia, Melbourne, Australia comes up twice in this film because Melbourne has had two prominent UFO cases. And as you said, Westall
and Q.
And Q.
Yeah.
Q. Fucking
next to me.
Yeah. Q.
Yeah.
And I potentially linked to the Westall incident is what Q is, but nonetheless, the Westall UFO landing was essentially like sixth graders in Westall Primary School and teachers and the principal saw a UFO land in their schoolyard. Like straight up saucer land, and they were like, oh my God. And then it shot off and fucked off, and they were like, what did we just see? And then, years later on, like, there was a program on Channel 10 called like 10 First. It was a little while ago. It's probably like 2012. They were interviewed as like 60-year-old adults now, grandparents now.
Yeah.
And they all remember it exactly. Now, the one person that did not come forward was the principal of the school, and he hasn't ever come on an interview. He's never told his story publicly, nothing, until James Fox came to Melbourne and visited him and convinced him to do his first ever on-camera interview. And it's in the movie The Phenomenon.
Yeah, he got quite emotional, man.
why he got emotional was because he was pigeonholed into not saying anything.
Exactly.
Government officials came and visited, and they said, we will say publicly and in your career that you were drunk and you're abusive and we'll destroy you.
Yeah.
Shut your fucking mouth. Because he was the most credible person, right? As an adult.
Of course.
You can think kids are just got a wild imagination. They're easy to discredit. But an adult who saw it, who was, not just an adult, he was the principal. To get to that level in your career, like you've obviously got, brains on you. Yeah. So you can discern bullshit from reality.
Yes.
So obviously they got to him, and eventually he was so moved by fear that he didn't do it. And then, that was in 1966. And he's like he was young then. So, he's like, I guess 70 something now. And yeah, he was profound listening to him say not only what he saw, but then tell the story of the officials and what they said to him. Yeah. And then Q was just a photo. A guy took a photo of a flying saucer. And this is what I love about this topic is like the dots that connect. You hear one story over here, you hear one story over there, you hear one story over here, and individually they mean nothing. They're just their own stories. But eventually
they link up.
For example, Bob Lazar on the Rogan podcast and in some documentaries that Jeremy Corbell did, he describes the craft. They don't actually fly, horizontal. They fly vertical. And lo and behold, in James Fox's documentary, there's a photo from Q of a UFO flying vertically. So belly up. And you're like, well, there's your little red pin to, line in the map. Like there's your connection. Yeah. And it's little details like this that keep me so intrigued. And it just keeps validating all of these other individual stories.
Well, just on the word of details. So people also ask, I want to address certain debunker claims that feel like they're foolproof when they're actually not. When they say, if it's all real, like, why would they want to work so hard to conceal it? Like, why are they putting all these efforts? Like, why is the government not wanting to tell it? Like you guys are just sort of making it up. Well, the reason is that clearly there are efforts by government officials to prevent anyone even threatening their families, threatening to kill them for various means and reasons. It clearly is very important to block the dissemination of this at some point for some reason. Yeah.
Chuck the trailer on.
I will.
Yeah.
Done. Definitely feels that way.
Yeah. It clearly is important.
Yeah.
There are cases that are not explainable in conventional terms, that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. When he got right up to it, it lit up. Was this a warning? Was this an attempt to communicate?
Felt scared.
Zimbabwe. It's Zimbabwe.
Running and flying all sort of maroon color in the sky.
It was not anything from this earth.
He was looking at all of us. Maybe they were trying to communicate.
They were reaching out to us.
There is an immense array of unanswered questions and an urgent need to get to the bottom of it.
The public has a right to know.
Ah.
The question is no longer if they are here, but why.
What are they doing? What do they want from us? What are their motivations?
For over 75 years, there have been sightings in the sky.
The UFO.
That's it.
Down.
That's the Q photo.
Silos in Montana.
Thousands of witnesses worldwide.
It had to be a data collection. I'm sure they scanned the warhead.
Just kind of hovering there. It never changed its longitudinal axis. Then it goes poof and it takes off the side.
And high-level cover-ups.
The government was covering up what happened at Roswell.
Hiding these dark secrets. I was told there wasn't anything there when I knew there was.
That's the view. That's the voice of the principal.
To know.
Yeah.
There is something else out there.
Yes, there have been visitation, crashed craft, material recovered.
Shouldn't we be spending some money to study all these phenomena?
I knew this was breaking news for the front page of the New York Times.
They were trying to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to tell us something.
Now it's time to tell people about it. These things are real. They're here. This is happening now.
If you haven't seen that film, watch it.
Get on that
immediately. It's free. It's on fucking YouTube. You can watch the whole thing for free.
No.
No ads.
I bought that film. I bought it. I've got it in my YouTube collection because I did day one. I fucking purchased it for like $36. I didn't care. I was like, I'm supporting James Fox. I was so, he's had two films since that film came out. He had Moment of Contact, which is the Varginha case in Brazil.
Yeah.
And then that came out 2 years ago. And then The Program came out months ago. Yeah. And both of them...
I haven't seen The Program yet.
Yeah. He dives deep. He dives real deep into like what is... Like, think of the phenomenon as like, okay, this is the high level. Yeah. And these are all these intriguing cases and these like reputable senators and people in the know and ex-military and leaders of these three-letter agencies coming forward and being like, yep, there's something very tangible here. And then there's the Varginha case where it's literally like, okay, let's deep dive into maybe the most profound case that he has come across of contact.
A whole city pretty much acknowledging it.
Yeah, and we have like family members that to this day are still affected by the loss of, like, for example, so the Varginha case, for those that don't know, real quickly, high level, is that beings were spotted by kids. Those 3 kids are now adults and they were in the film telling their story. These were 3-foot beings, red, oily skin, like
they stung,
lizard, reeked. And one of them was crossing the road, as in one of the beings, and a police officer who was like fresh in the police academy kind of thing. Like he was on routine patrol, 23-year-old kid basically, and he rescued it. He was like, "Come with me. I'm going to take it to hospital." He looked injured, and he couldn't tell his story. By the way, this is all because other people involved in what happened next told the story of what happened. And he went from hospital to hospital with this being, and none of them could treat it. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, we don't know what to do with it.
Freaking out hard, probably.
And eventually it died, and the doctor who did the autopsy is in the film talking about him doing the autopsy on this fucking thing. Like, it's crazy. And then the cop he just gets sick like immediately, and no matter how much antibiotics they pump into him and how much they treat him,
his skin was like lopping off.
Yeah, he was getting annihilated by it, because he obviously touched it with his bare hands and came into very close contact. He held it to his chest basically to carry it.
Oof.
And he just it's like War of the Worlds. You know how the ending of the film is just really abrupt, and it's all because they get a cold. Because essentially the human environment they're not adapted to, so they all die from bacteria. Same thing, but in reverse. The humans touch it, and we end up getting demolished by whatever bacteria they call it.
Like Spanish.
He died of an unknown virus.
Yeah. So essentially, like, we have like all the stories of all the hospitals that he took it to, and then eventually the mortuary where it went, and the doctor that did the procedure of the autopsy. All the family members involved with not only the 3 girls that witnessed it, but the family of the cop. Then there's video footage that James Fox to this day knows exists, and is getting closer and closer and closer to finding. And as soon as he finds it, you best believe that man is going to release it.
Hell yeah.
He's going to release it. And actually, funnily enough, just speaking on releasing footage, Logan Paul, of all people, like, what the freaking hell? There's a video that James Fox talked about that he has been trying to get his hands on for years. And it is as crazy as I'm about to describe it. Now, James Fox has seen the footage. Logan Paul has seen the footage. So there's a guy who owns this videotape of an incident that happened. I can't remember if it happened to him and he got the tape because he filmed it, or if he was given the tape by the people it affected. But a father and a son were driving on a country road, and all of a sudden their car breaks down, just fucking stops. And it's like pitch black, no one's around them from sight. And all of a sudden this orange glowing UFO appears right above their car. And the son, in the panic of the state, starts getting his camera out to film it. And and you can hear the panic in their voice. Yeah, exactly. You can hear the panic in their voice. They're terrified as hell. Their cars stop. They feel trapped. Obviously, they're sort of like deer in the headlights and then caged deer. They're freaking out because this thing is kind of like, they don't know its intentions. And all of a sudden, it's, appearing on the left-hand side of the car, the right-hand side of the car. It's streaming light into the car. And he films the skin on the, and the way they described it was, the skin of the craft was moving, and it was orange, and it was just moving like lava, kind of the whole thing. And that piece of footage exists, and James Fox has been trying to get his hands on it, and you best believe he knows. He's seen it. He's like, I've fucking seen it. I know it, and I want to release it. It's insane.
And Logan Paul has
seen it, and he said that he was going to go interview the guy, and you know, put it down to clickbait or whatever his logic was. But before he went and saw it, he was saying like, I'm going to secretly film it, and I'm going to release the video of me filming the footage. But for whatever reason, obviously he had a change of heart. He went and met the guy. Maybe he sat down and he just sort of like felt the gravity of what this was to this guy. And Logan didn't end up filming it. He went and saw it, and he was like profoundly moved by the guy and who let him watch it. And he was like, yeah, I couldn't disrespect him.
What did Logan think of the footage itself?
Yeah, unreal.
Later that day, he joined the WWE. He's like, fuck this, I'm just going to be a part of the theater.
Oh, Logan? Oh, that's Jake.
Oh, is that Jake?
Yeah, Logan. I mean, yeah, Logan does admit that too.
No, Logan went WWE. Jake's gone into boxing.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, Jake's the boxer.
Yeah, Jake's the boxer. He fought Mike Tyson.
I mean, both of them technically. Logan fought Mayweather.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. People forgot that Logan fought too.
Hey, should we open these fucking chips up? I want to actually taste it.
Yeah, grab it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh shit!
But dude, that Pentyrch case is fucking wild, man.
Oh, they're like burger rings.
Yeah, they're pretty much burger rings.
They got MSG in them. They're good.
I love MSG.
Are they crunchy?
Burger rings.
Look at the shape.
Had little UFOs.
Ezekiel's wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, Jack, you've got plenty to show us, man. Let's dive into yours.
That's cool.
Okay. Well, since we're pretty much balls deep into UFO stuff, we might as well go to the Japan case. So, all right. We've got the.
Do you want
stuff
you
there. You know,
I'm happy to bring it up.
Yeah, if you just bring it up.
The Japan case. So the Japan case is which one? The Japanese UFOs in the 1800s.
Well, okay. Do you want me to describe the ancient Egyptian one first?
I'll be right back, guys.
All right. So,
you know what? Let's
take the mouse.
Let's take a pause on the pause.
Yeah, done.
Actually,
we'll be back, guys. We'll be back.
Hey guys, I've decided to end the episode here, and the next episode Jack will be starting on Japan and we'll be going into ancient aliens. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye.